The cold of Stalingrad, where metal snaps from the frost, and men die in the fiery traps of their own tanks. Lieutenant Kovalev loses a friend in a horrific detonation and realizes the rule book is a death sentence. He comes up with a trick where the tank doesn't break, but careens into a skid, sowing panic among the Germans. A terrifying fact. Crews burned in seconds, unaware of this secret. But what kind of scandalous calculation allowed the laws of physics to be overturned in battle? In the video, you will see the intriguing details of those nights of repairs and horrors on the ice. But the cruelest discovery waits at the end. How this idea saved not only him, but entire armies, changing the history of the war. Watch until the end. January 1943. The Red October Plant District. This isn't a city. It is a pile of concrete, rebar, and frozen brick that cartographers, out of habit, call streets. The air temperature has dropped to -25 degrees Celsius. Metal rings from the cold. The grease in the transmissions thickens, turning into a viscous sludge. Lieutenant Sokolov didn't die because he was a coward. He died because he was a model soldier. I watch his machine through a slit in the brickwork of a destroyed workshop. Sokolov's T-34, tracks clanking, crawls out from behind the corner of a semi-ruined administrative building. The engine roars at low RPMs, spitting out clouds of blue-gray smoke that instantly freeze in the frosty air. The tank moves strictly according to the regulations of the armored forces. The driver brings the hull into direct alignment. The commander gives the order. "Short stop!" The machine jerks. The clutches disengage. The tracks lock. 28 tons of inertia drag the hull forward across the packed ice. The Christie suspension, famous for its softness, plays a cruel joke here. The tank's nose dips down, then bounces up. This is the inevitable oscillation caused by sudden braking. The gunner inside the turret presses his forehead against the sight pad, trying to catch the target in crosshairs that are dancing like a madman. He needs to wait. Wait for the hull vibrations to stop completely. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. These 3 seconds are a death sentence. The German gunner in the turret of the Panzer IV, modification F2, isn't waiting. He is sitting in ambush, 300 meters down the street, hidden behind a pile of twisted beams. His machine is stationary. His gun is pre-aimed at the spot where the Soviet tank is expected to appear. He doesn't need to fight inertia. He doesn't need to wait for the recoil hydraulics to settle. He simply presses the pedal. The muzzle flash merges with the sound of the impact. The 75mm shell covers the distance in a fraction of an instant. It enters the side of Sokolov's T-34 right under the turret ring, in the most vulnerable spot, right where the fuel tanks are. There was no ricochet, no sparks, only the dull, wet sound of a knife entering meat. A moment later, the hatches fly open under the pressure of a firestorm from within. The detonation of the ammunition rack rips off the turret, weighing several tons, and tosses it onto the pavement like an empty tin can. The crew didn't even have time to realize they were dead. The radio, filled with commands a second ago, cuts off into static hissing. I lower my binoculars. The lenses are fogged from my breath. Beside me, my driver, Sergeant Pilipenko, wipes his hands with a rag. His hands are black from oil and red from the frost. The skin on his knuckles is cracked, and dirt has eaten into the fissures. He looks at the burning skeleton of Sokolov's machine without fear, but with a grim, animalistic anguish. We both know the mechanics of what happened. This isn't a war of heroes. It's a math problem, in which we have been calculated. "Third one this week." Pilipenko's voice sounds hollow, as if coming from underground. "Comrade Lieutenant, they have the intersection zeroed in. They have landmarks there, sectors of fire. We pop out like targets in a shooting gallery. You stop, you burn. He is right. The German tactics in urban combat are flawless. They have turned the ruins of Stalingrad into a system of deadly traps. They know our manuals. They know that a Soviet tank cannot fire accurately on the move. We don't have gun stabilizers. To shoot, we have to stop. To stop on ice takes time. And it is precisely in this interval, while the driver fights the levers and the gunner fights his vestibular system, that the German plants a slug in our side. In the battalion headquarters, located in the basement of a surviving workshop, it smells of dampness, mold, and cheap tobacco. Battalion Commander Believ paces from corner to corner. His face is gray from lack of sleep, his eyes inflamed. A map is spread out on the table, speckled with red and blue pencil marks. The front line runs right through the factory floors. "Why did you stop, Kovalyev?" Believ doesn't shout, but there is a steel tension in his voice, ready to snap at any moment. "The order was to take Central Street. Sokolov went, Sokolov burned, and your platoon is sitting in cover. Cowardice?" "Physics, Comrade Major," I answer. My voice is dry, devoid of emotion. There is no room for excuses here. Sokolov acted according to regulations. Stop to fire. Hull oscillation damping time, 4 seconds. Reaction time of a German gunner from ambush, 1.5 seconds. We lose 2.5 seconds. That is an eternity. At this distance, armor doesn't save us. The long-barreled gun of the German 4 punches right through us. Believ stops abruptly. He slams his fist on the table. The kerosene lamp jumps. Shadows dart across the damp brick walls. "I don't give a damn about your seconds," he growls. "I don't give a damn about physics. We have an order from Army HQ. Drive the enemy out of grid square 1240. If we don't take this street, the Germans will bring up assault guns and slice our defense to the Volga. Tomorrow at dawn, you will lead the remains of the company into the attack. By the book, with infantry riding on the armor. And if you stop or turn back, I will personally shoot you in front of the formation for failure to execute a combat mission." I look at the map. Grid square 1240. A narrow stone trough covered in a layer of ice. On the left and right, blank walls of factory buildings. Ahead, a camouflaged battery of anti-tank guns and dug-in enemy tanks. To go there by the rules means voluntarily sticking your head in a noose. "Permission to leave, Comrade Major?" I ask. Believ breathes heavily. He understands that he is sending us to slaughter. He is an experienced officer. He has fought from the border to the Volga. But an order hangs over him, and a tribunal hangs over the order. He has no choice. And do I? "Go, Kovalev. Prep the machines. Check the batteries. Make sure they start like clockwork in the morning." I walk out of the stuffy basement into the frosty air. The wind carries prickly snow dust that cuts the face like fine sandpaper. The roar of artillery doesn't cease for a minute, but the ear learned long ago to filter this noise, perceiving it as background. Only a change in rhythm matters. Now the rhythm is steady, methodical. The Germans are pounding the river crossing. I walk to the Caponiers where our machines are hidden. 3 remaining T-34 tanks, 3 crews. 12 men who must die tomorrow for the sake of a checkmark in a report. I approach my machine. The armor is covered in hoarfrost. If you touch it with a bare hand, the skin will stay on the metal. I run a gloved palm along the cold slope of the turret. These aren't just pieces of steel welded together. This is a complex mechanism with its own character, its own ailments, and its own hidden possibilities. The Soviet school of tank building created these machines to be rough but enduring. Large tolerances in the parts allow them to work in mud, in dust, on bad oil. But right now, We don't need endurance. We need reaction speed, for which this design, it would seem, is not calculated. I recall Sokolov's death, frame by frame. Stop, nose dip, impact. The problem isn't the armor. The problem is the statics. As long as we are moving, we are hard to hit. The angular velocity of the target's displacement is too high for a German gunner at a distance of 200 meters. But we can't shoot on the move. Or do we just think we can't? The manual was written for dry ground, for proving grounds, for normal conditions. There are no normal conditions here. Here there is ice. Here there is a city. Here, death awaits anyone who plays by the rules. I climb into the turret. Inside it smells of diesel, gunpowder fumes, and unwashed bodies. My notebook lies at the gunner's station. I take out a stub of a pencil. I need to calculate. If we don't brake with the levers, if we use the inertia of 28 tons not as an enemy, but as an ally? A scheme begins to form in my head. Force vectors. The coefficient of friction of the track against the ice. Centrifugal force during a turn. If we enter the turn in 4th gear, no, the track will fly off. What if we do it in 3rd? And lock one side not smoothly, but with a punch? The tank will go into a skid. It will turn sideways, sliding. At that moment, the hull moves forward, but the turret can maintain direction on the target. It is madness. The operating manual categorically forbids such maneuvers on hard ground. It guarantees throwing a track and destroying the final drive. But this isn't hard ground. This is ice. Ice slick with oil and blood. I close my eyes, imagining this dance of steel. Controlled drift. Sliding instead of braking. A shot at the moment when inertia is being dampened by friction, but the tank hasn't stopped completely yet. The second when the enemy loses his aim because we aren't moving in a straight line, but in an arc. I open the notebook. The graphite scratches the paper. Velocity vector. Drift angle. This is no longer infantry combat tactics. This is pure mechanics. And tonight, in a frozen workshop, I must turn this insane theory into our only chance for survival. The light of the kerosene lamp picks out the rough weld seams on my machine's turret from the darkness. We are parked in a semi-destroyed assembly hall, where the roof remains only in fragments, resembling the ribs of a picked skeleton. Snow falls directly onto the transmission compartment, hissing on the still warm armor metal. I don't sleep. Sleep in such conditions is an impermissible luxury, fraught with loss of concentration. Instead of sleep, I dissect the mechanics of imminent death. Before me, on an oily rag, lies the open notebook. The pencil lead crumbles from the pressure. I am not drawing tactics. I am drawing force vectors. The T-34 tank, model 1942, is a brilliant machine for black earth and virgin snow. Wide tracks create low ground pressure. We pass where German Tigers and Panthers get stuck. But here, on the polished ice of the factory driveways, our advantage turns into a death sentence. On ice, the T-34 becomes a cow. A clumsy, heavy, inertial cow weighing 28 tons. The grip of steel tracks on the ice crust trends toward zero. Any sharp movement with the steering clutch lever leads to uncontrolled spinning. The machine just drifts. That is exactly why the manual on driving combat vehicles categorically forbids sharp maneuvering on slippery surfaces. Point 44, section Driving in Winter Conditions. Clear and simple. Movement should be smooth, avoid jerking. Turns should be made in low gears with a large radius. I cross out this point in my head with a thick X. Following this rule will kill us all tomorrow. I look at the blueprint of the chassis. 5 large-diameter road wheels. Drive sprocket in the rear, idler in the front. The simple, reliable Christie scheme. But it has a weak spot. If you sharply lock one track at high speed, all the colossal inertia of the hull will try to rip the tracks off the guides. On dry ground, this guarantees unshoeing. The track flies off, the wheels hit the earth, and the tank turns into a stationary target. And the crew turns into corpses. But what if the ice isn't the problem, but the solution? I draw the line of the inertia vector. If the coefficient of friction is low, then when the track locks, it won't bite into the ground. It will slide. The tank won't tip over and won't lose momentum. It will go into a lateral skid. The idea seems insane. It contradicts everything I was taught at the academy. Enter the turn not in second gear, creeping, but in fourth. Full throttle. Accelerate the machine to 40 kilometers per hour in a narrow stone sack. Right before the turn, don't let off the gas, but disengage the left clutch and slam on the left brake. The right track keeps digging, pushing the machine forward. The left one locks up, acting like an anchor, but not grabbing, instead sliding on the ice. The tank hull should pivot 90 degrees almost instantly. Centrifugal force will throw us sideways into the alley. At that moment, we will be moving broadside forward, but the turret... If the gunner rotates the turret against the direction of the hull's rotation beforehand, then, at the moment of the drift, the gun barrel will be looking strictly at the enemy. This is an equation with 3 unknowns. Will the track pins hold? Will the gunner be fast enough? And most importantly, will we not smear ourselves against the wall of the neighboring workshop? "Comrade Lieutenant, what have you cooked up?" The voice of the driver, Sergeant Major Gorlov, sounds hoarse. He is standing below, by the open transmission hatch, wiping hands black with graphite grease. Gorlov is an old tractor driver. He feels the V2 engine like his own organism. He sees my scribbles in the notebook, and his face lengthens. I climb down from the armor, jumping onto the concrete floor strewn with shell casings and broken brick. I show him the diagram. "Tomorrow, we won't stop to shoot, Gorlov. We're going to shoot in a skid." He looks at me like I'm a lunatic. His gaze darts from the drawing to my eyes, trying to find signs of shell shock. "In a skid? On ice?" He spits on the floor. The saliva freezes almost instantly. "Comrade Lieutenant, that's a court-martial. Do you realize what will happen to the final drive? The gears will be ground to dust. And if we throw a track? Losing a track in battle is death. We won't even have time to open the hatches. They'll burn us. The Germans aren't fools. They'll finish off a sitter. The manual is written in blood, not invented by fools. You can't pull stunts like that in a T-34. Our track guide horns are low. They'll jump out of the idler." Gorlov is right. From a mechanic's point of view, I am proposing the rape of the machine. I am proposing forcing 500 horsepower to work toward tearing the metal apart. The manual is written to preserve the machine until battle, I answer harshly. My voice reflects off the empty walls of the workshop. And my job is to preserve the crew in battle. Did you see Sokolov? He did everything by the book. Where is he now? Burning at the intersection along with his radio operator and turret gunner. The Germans have everything zeroed in there, every meter. They know where we'll hit the brakes. They are waiting for that moment. As soon as you let off the gas to stop and aim, you're a corpse. I walk right up to him. Gorlov smells of fumes and fear, but most of all, fatigue. "We have no choice, Sergeant Major. Either we risk the iron, or we guarantee giving up our lives. I need a controlled drift. Entry in 4th gear. Sharp locking. Inertia needs to drag us past their sights." While the German is cranking his hand wheels, trying to catch a sliding target, will already have fired. Gorilov is silent. He looks at his hands, at the skinned knuckles. Then he shifts his gaze to the tank tracks, massive steel links, polished by snow and mud. Each link weighs more than 10 kilograms. It isn't just a chain, it's the tank's spine. I am asking him to break this spine in order to survive. In fourth, he mutters. That means what kind of RPMs do we need to hold? 1800? The engine will scream. They'll hear us a kilometer away. Let them hear. Let them get ready to meet a tank that comes around the corner and brakes. But we'll fly out sideways, like a puck on ice. Gorilov shakes his head, but I see a spark of professional excitement in his eyes. This is a challenge to his skill. To do what is considered impossible. To hold 28 tons of steel on the brink of catastrophe. If the track flies off, I will personally strangle you, Comrade Lieutenant, if I don't burn first, he says sullenly. But the track pins need checking, and the tension needs loosening. Just a bit, so there's some play. If we tighten them by the book, like a guitar string, they'll snap for sure on a side impact. But if we give it a little slack, it might just play out. He is already working. He has already accepted this insane logic. Engineering calculation has defeated the fear of instructions. Loosen them, I nod. And check the clutches. They have to grip with a death grip. If they slip, we slam into the wall. We spend the rest of the night in the frozen hell of repairs. The sound of sledgehammer blows on track pins is drowned out by the artillery barrage. We are preparing the machine not for battle, but for a stunt. For a death-defying act under the dome of the Stalingrad sky, where instead of a safety net, there is frozen earth, and instead of applause, armor-piercing shells. I climb back into the turret and look into the periscope. The glass is cloudy, greenish. Through it, the world looks underwater. Tomorrow, this world will try to crush us. But I have a plan. I have physics. And I have a crew ready to violate the laws of common sense for a 1 in 1,000 chance. In the corner of the notebook, next to the force vectors, I write one word. Speed. This is the only armor we have left. Reaction speed and the rotation speed of the drive sprocket. Tomorrow morning we will check who is stronger, the German optics from Zeiss or Russian audacity multiplied by engineering risk. Dawn approaches. The sky in the east turns gray, colored like a dirty bandage. The frost strengthens. The tank's metal begins to ring from tension, as if sensing that it is about to withstand loads not foreseen by the designers of the Kharkov plant. We are ready. The V-234 engine roars behind the armored bulkhead, devouring diesel and air. Inside the tank, this sound isn't heard. It is felt with the whole body as a vibration that makes your teeth start to crumble. We are going out on a solitary hunt. This isn't an attack. This is a laboratory experiment, where the price of failure will be our instant cremation. Driver Gorilov shifts into third gear. The tracks crunch, grinding the ice crumbs mixed with brick dust. We move down the alley leading to the square in front of workshop number 4. The walls of the houses here have been sheared off by artillery at an angle, opening sectors of fire. I look into the commander's observation device. The world in the eyepiece shakes, blurring into a gray-white haze. Ahead is the intersection, the very one where death waits for anyone who drops their speed. We fly out into the open space, and immediately I see it. A Sturmgeschütz, 3 self-propelled gun. A low, squat silhouette, looking like a flattened turtle. It stands in the deep shadow of a destroyed arch, just 150 meters from us. It has no turret. To aim the gun horizontally, it needs to turn the entire hull. That is its weakness. But its 70mm gun is looking right at us. Instinct screams in a frantic voice, "Brake! Reverse!" Muscle memory demands I pull the levers back, lock the tracks, and try to roll back. This is a reflex hammered in by years of training. But if we stop, the German gunner will press the trigger before we can blink. "Gun it!" I shout into the throat mic, shouting over the roar of the diesel and my own fear. "Fourth! Left clutch back! Hard!" Gorilov doesn't argue. In this moment, he is not a man. He is a hydraulic actuator executing a command. I feel the tank leap forward as if kicked by a giant boot. The engine RPMs soar to the limit. Black smoke pours from the exhaust pipes. Gorilov yanks the left lever back all the way. Simultaneously, he stomps on the left brake pedal. Physics takes its rights. 28 tons of metal, rushing at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour, suddenly lose their point of support on the left. The right track continues to rotate furiously, pushing the machine forward. The left one locks solid. On dry ground, this maneuver would have ripped the wheels off the axles, and we would have been smeared across the armor inside the fighting compartment. But here, it is ice. The tank doesn't turn. It drifts. The hull of the machine begins to rotate around the vertical axis with monstrous speed. We are thrown sideways. Centrifugal force presses me into the turret wall. I hear the loader bump his shoulder against the gun breech with a dull thud. The clatter of the tracks changes pitch. Now it isn't a rhythmic clacking, but the screech of metal sliding on metal. We are going broadside, sideways toward the German SPG. In the periscope, I see the barrel of the Stug twitch. The German gunner is in a panic. He is used to tracking a target moving linearly. He knows how to lead a target horizontally, but he cannot calculate the trajectory of an object that is simultaneously moving forward, rotating, and sliding sideways. The angular velocity of our displacement exceeds the traverse speed of his heavy casemate. He cranks the aiming hand wheels, but our silhouette swims out of his sights faster than his gun turns. "Fire!" I command, as soon as the crosshairs of my sight, dancing in a mad rhythm, coincide for a split second with the gray side of the self-propelled gun. The gunner stomps the firing pedal. A 76mm shot at point-blank range. Inside the turret, a ball of fire flares up, instantly replaced by the acrid smoke of gunpowder gases. The crash is such that you go deaf for a moment. The gun breech flies back, spitting out a smoking shell casing that falls onto the floor of the fighting compartment with a ring. The recoil of the F-34 cannon is a hammer blow weighing several tons. This blow is directed against our movement. The impulse of the shot dampens the inertia of the slide. The tank shudders. Its rotation slows down as if someone invisible pulled the emergency brake. The tracks finally find grip. The shell hits the German in the casemate, just above the gun mantlet. I don't see the explosion. I only see a shower of sparks and a black cloud erupting from their hatches. "Get out! Right! Into the alley!" I wheeze. There is the taste of blood in my mouth. I bit my tongue when I hit the observation device. Gorilov releases the left clutch and straightens the machine. The tank, wagging its tail, dives into the saving shadow behind the brick wall of the workshop. We slip through the kill zone 3 seconds before a return shell could have exploded there, had the German still been alive. Inside the machine hangs a heavy smell, a mixture of burnt gunpowder, heated oil, and human sweat that breaks out instantly as soon as the adrenaline releases. The gunner's hands are shaking as he reaches for a new shell. My knees are trembling so much I can barely stand on the turret floor. This wasn't a battle. It was a brawl in a back alley, where the winner was the one who struck first with brass knuckles. We violated all laws of tactics and equipment operation. We forced a 30-ton behemoth to dance on ice like a lightweight ballerina. I look at the dashboard. The oil temperature is creeping into the red zone. The engine is overheated from working at limit RPMs. But we are alive. And the transmission, contrary to common sense, hasn't fallen apart.
We're intact.
I hear Gorlov's voice in the headphones. There is a mixture of disbelief and wild delight in his voice. Comrade Lieutenant, the tracks are on. We didn't throw them. This is the first pirouette of the Stalingrad ballet. We proved that physics works for those who aren't afraid of its laws. The German machine, created for proper war, lost to a Russian machine that was forced to work beyond the edge of the possible. But this is only the beginning. One lucky stunt isn't a system yet. Now I have to explain to headquarters why I didn't burn as prescribed by the manual, but returned with a victory, having violated a direct order on the rules of engagement. Battalion headquarters meets me not with fanfares, but with heavy, stagnant air in which the expectation of execution hangs. Here, under the vaults of the concrete basement, war turns from thunder and fire into dry lines of reports and casualty graphs. Major Belyaev sits at a table piled with maps. He doesn't look at me. He looks at the summary of the technical state of the vehicles. Are you an idiot, Kovalev? His voice is quiet, but there is more threat in this silence than in the explosion of a high-explosive shell. I stand at attention. My uniform is soaked in sweat and soot. My hands tremble from overexertion, but I keep my back straight. Mission accomplished, Comrade Major. Enemy self-propelled gun destroyed. No casualties. Vehicle operational. Belyaev slowly raises his head. In his eyes, I see not the joy of victory, but the cold fury of a man responsible for every screw in his assigned unit. Operational? He throws a sheet of paper on the table. It's the report from the Deputy Commander for Technical Affairs. You have overheated steering clutches. The wear on the track pins is as if you marched 500 kilometers in 1 hour. The mechanics say you yanked the levers as if you wanted to rip the transmission out by the roots. This is wrecking. In wartime, this is called sabotage. It is survival, I answer. It is a circus, Belyaev barks, jumping up from his chair. The shadow of his figure breaks against the brick wall. We aren't showing tricks here. We are fighting. The manual is written in blood, Kovalev. It's there in black and white, firing from short stops, smooth movement. And what did you pull? Figure skating in a 28-ton machine? Do you even realize that if you had thrown a track in the sector of fire, I wouldn't have even sent a recovery vehicle for you? I would have written the crew off as a combat loss due to the commander's stupidity. I take a step toward the table. It is a violation of subordination, but right now we aren't talking about ranks, but about mathematics. I take my notebook out of my map case, the very one with the vectors and formulas. Permission to report, Comrade Major. Belyaev is silent, breathing heavily. He looks at my drawings with disgust, as if at heresy. Look at the numbers. I poke my finger at the calculations. The lifespan of a stationary tank at the intersection of streets in grid 1240 is 3 minutes. That is the statistic for the last 3 days. Sokolov lasted 2. The Germans have every brick zeroed in. Any stop is a 100% probability of being hit. A 75mm shell punches right through our side. We have no armor against their long-barreled guns. I turn the page. And now, dynamics. If the tank moves in a lateral skid, the angular velocity of the target displacement exceeds the capabilities of the German gun traversing drives. They simply can't crank the handles fast enough. The probability of a hit drops to 10%, and even then, only if it's a random ricochet. Are you proposing turning the tank battalion into a ballet troupe? Belyaev squints. Do you even understand what kind of qualification such a maneuver requires? Our drivers are tractor drivers from collective farms. They pull levers with 2 hands, and you want them to drift like racers. They'll snap the tracks on the very first turn, and then we'll be left without tanks altogether. The infantry will go against machine guns naked. Is that what you want? I want them to come back alive, I say firmly, and for them to burn German tanks, not burn themselves. Tractor drivers feel the earth. You just need to explain to them that ice is also soil, just with a different coefficient of friction. Give me time. Belyaev sits back down. He rubs his temples with his fingers. He is an old soldier. He is used to order, to linear tactics, to predictability. But he also sees the burning carcasses of our machines on the streets. He understands that the old methods don't work here. We have run headfirst into a wall, and this wall cannot be broken by a frontal attack. In the corner of the basement, water drips from a pipe. Drip, drip, drip. Every drop counts down the seconds of our lives. How much? The battalion commander asks hollowly. A day. 24 hours. I need all remaining crews and the proving ground in the factory's backyard, and carte blanche on fuel and spare parts consumption. Belyaev looks at me with a long, heavy gaze. He is weighing the risks. On one side, a court-martial for violating orders and damaging equipment. On the other, a chance to complete a combat mission that seems impossible. You have 24 hours, Kovalev, he finally pronounces. His voice sounds like a sentence. Tomorrow at dawn, the Germans plan a counterattack. Reconnaissance reports a concentration of armor in Sector G. If your figure skaters don't stop them, if even one machine stops because of a thrown track or a burned-out clutch, I will personally hand you over to the tribunal. And believe me, a penal battalion will seem like paradise to you. He slides a sheet of paper and a pen toward me. Write a receipt. I take full responsibility for the technical condition of the combat vehicles entrusted to me. So I have a paper for the prosecutor. I take the pen. My fingers won't bend, but I write firmly. Every letter is a signature under my own death sentence. But it is also a permit for life. Permission to break the rules for the sake of victory. And one more thing, Kovalyev. Belyaev stops me at the exit. If this works, I'll be the first to write a recommendation for a medal. But if not, better not to come back. Burn in the tank. It will be more honest. I walk out of headquarters. The wind hits me in the face. 24 hours. 1,440 minutes. This is infinitely long for a battle, but negligibly short to teach people to violate the laws of physics. I walk to the machines. The crews are smoking, sitting on the armor. They see me and fall silent. They are waiting for an order. An order to die by the book, or an order to do something impossible. Fall in, I command. My voice breaks into a wheeze. Mechanics, check track tension. Loosen by 2 links. Tank commanders, to me. We're going to learn physics. In their eyes, I see bewilderment. Loosen the tracks? That's suicide. But in this bewilderment, there is a spark of hope. They understand that I am offering them something more than just death for the motherland. I am offering them a chance to cheat that death. Time has started. The factory yard, piled with trash and snow, turns into a classroom. Only instead of desks here, there are levers and periscopes, and instead of a pointer, a wrench. We are starting a race against time, where the prize is life, and the penalty for a mistake is a death notice. The proving ground in the backyard of the factory is a grand name for a wasteland piled with slag, broken brick, and twisted rebar. There are no marked tracks or classrooms here. There is only ice, concrete walls of workshops, and 5 crews looking at me like I'm a madman. Time: midnight. The temperature is dropping. The wind from the Volga cuts to the bone, but no one is cold. Heavy, oily heat rises from the warmed-up engines of 5 machines. The air trembles from the roar of diesels running at idle. "The task is simple," I shout over the noise of the motors. "Accelerate to 30. Landmark that pile of beams over there. Enter the turn, lock the side, turn 90 degrees, shoot at the dummy, exit the skid. Go!" Sergeant Volkov's crew goes first. His driver, a young guy from the replacements, is gripping the levers too hard. I see it even through the armor, by the way the machine jerks. The tank roars, tears off the spot, gains speed. But right before the turn, the mechanic's nerves fail. Instinctively, he lets off the gas. Mistake. Instead of a slide, there is an impact. The track, losing momentum, bites into the ground. The tank noses down. Its rear swings around, but not smoothly, with a jerk. A terrible grinding of metal is heard. The track horns slip off the sprocket ring. The machine stalls, its cannon buried in the wall. We run up. Volkov climbs out of the hatch, his face white. The driver is shaking. "Track?" I ask shortly. "In place, Comrade Lieutenant, but the pins looks like they're bent, almost through it." "You let off the gas." I don't ask, I state a fact. "You got scared. A tank is 500 horses. If you drop the reins, they'll trample you. Pedal to the metal. Inertia is your only savior. If there is no speed, there is no slide. If there is no slide, there is an impact. And an impact breaks metal." The next 3 hours turn into hard labor. This isn't training. It's violence against equipment and people. We are learning to break reflexes. The organism demands braking before an obstacle, and I force them to accelerate. The air fills with cursing, the smell of burnt friction bands and diesel. The crews are squeezed dry like lemons. The control of a T-34 has no hydraulic boosters. To pull the steering clutch lever requires an effort of 30 kilograms. To tighten the band brake, even more. And this must be done sharply, with a punch. After the 10th run, the mechanic's hands cramp up. The skin on their palms bursts, leaving bloody traces on the levers. "Don't pull! Yank it!" I yell into the ear of the 3rd machine's driver. "You're not stroking a girl's braid. It's iron. It only understands force." He yanks the lever back. The tank rears up but goes into a skid. The hull flies sideways, kicking up fountains of snow dust. The turret turns against the motion. The barrel looks at the target, an old rusty boiler. "Fire!" The pop of a dry fire. The tank freezes, having described a perfect arc. "Like that!" I clap the driver on the shoulder. "Did you feel it?" He nods, breathing heavily. Sweat floods his eyes, mixing with the dirt on his face. "Like on a sled, Comrade Lieutenant. Only scarier." By 3 in the morning, the proving ground turns into a skating rink. The ice is polished by tracks to a mirror shine. We are balancing on the edge. One crew finally unshoes. The track flies off the idler with a crash resembling a collapsing house. We spend a precious 40 minutes on repairs. In the dark, by the light of flashlights, 10 men with crowbars and a sledgehammer pull the multi-ton ribbon back on. Fingers freeze to the metal. The cursing is such that it seems the snow is melting. But no one whines. Everyone understands. Better to lose tracks here than life tomorrow morning. This is the ice class.
There are no grades here. Here, there is only the criterion, alive or dead. I teach them to listen to the machine. The tank speaks to the crew in the language of vibrations.
If the track starts to slip, a fine tremor goes through the floor. If the engine is choking, the pitch of the turbine whine changes. If you are afraid, it will stop, I tell the tankers gathered in a circle during a short smoke break. We smoke, hiding the glowing tips of the cigarettes in our sleeves. The tank senses uncertainty. If your hand wavered on the lever, the clutch slipped, the skid is ruined, the side is exposed. If you believe in physics, it will slide. You must become part of the transmission. Your nervous system must close the loop on the gearbox. By dawn, 3 out of 5 crews master the trick. The other 2 never could step over their fear. They let off the gas. They break. The psychology of self-preservation turns out to be stronger than the order. I remove them from the maneuver group. They will go in the second echelon as fire support. It is cruel, but fair. There is no room for doubt on the ice. 3 machines that passed the selection stand in a row. Their sides are scratched, the wheels hot from friction. But they are intact. I look at my men. They look like ghosts. Eyes sunken, faces black with soot. They haven't slept for more than 24 hours. Their muscles are clogged with lactic acid so that every movement causes pain. But something new has appeared in their eyes. It is the look of a predator who has realized he is no longer prey. Before, they got into the tank as into an iron box that protects them with armor. Now, they look at the tank as a weapon they control. They realized that 28 tons of steel can dance. "Refuel," I command. My voice is hoarse, vocal cords torn by shouting. "Check ammo racks. Full load of armor piercing. Don't take high explosive. There won't be infantry there. Only armor." The mechanics climb into the machines. Movements are sparse, precise. No fuss. Fatigue has cut away everything superfluous, leaving only function. I approach my machine. Gorilov is sleeping, sitting in the driver's seat, resting his head on the levers. I knock on the armor. He instantly opens his eyes. There is no sleep in them. There is readiness. "How are the pins, Sergeant Major?" "Holding, Comrade Lieutenant. I checked. The play is normal. Still have grease." "Get ready. 1 hour to start." Dawn over Stalingrad rises blood red. Smoke from fires veils the sun. Somewhere far away, in the area of Mamayev Kurgan, Katyushas begin to work. The earth shudders. But our sector of the front is silent for now. The calm before the storm. The Germans are warming up the engines of their Fours and Stugs, preparing for a standard attack. They expect us to act as always. Linearly, predictably. They are wrong. We move to the starting positions. 3 tanks, 3 bolides of death. We turned the night into training to turn the morning into a slaughter. The engineering calculation is finished. The theory has been tested on the proving ground. Now begins the exam that the enemy will proctor, and there will be no retakes. I put on my helmet. The throat mic chills my neck. "Platoon, listen to my command. We are working according to option ICE. Don't keep distance. Every man for himself, but in a unified rhythm. Entering the kill zone at maximum speed." Clicks of confirmation in the headphones. 3 short Roger that's. Engines howl. We move out. The tracks bite into the ice. We aren't going to die. We are going to slide. The Germans arrived at exactly 800 hours. Punctuality is their second religion after race superiority. We were waiting for them. We heard their heavy, low-frequency rumble a block away. This isn't regular infantry support.
The sound of Maybach engines cannot be confused with anything. This is the elite. The 4th Tank Battalion, equipped with special issue machines. Silhouettes float into my periscope. Panzer IV, modification F2.
Long-barreled 75mm guns with muzzle brakes. These guns are capable of punching through the frontal armor of a T-34 from a distance of 1.5 kilometers. Here, in the stone sack, distances are reduced to 100 meters. This means any contact is fatal. Armor here is just paper. Only the geometry of movement saves us. They come in a wedge, confidently occupying the intersection. They know their job. The tanks stop, blocking the streets. Turrets turn, barrels scan the ruins. They are creating a death zone, a sector swept by crossfire. Their tactic is waiting. They know the Russians will climb into a counterattack. They are waiting for us to show our nose, jerk forward, and stop to shoot. It is a trap, a perfectly planned ambush for aces. But they are waiting for the tank they read about in their manuals. They aren't waiting for us. Attention, platoon! I speak into the throat mic quietly, as if afraid they will hear me through the armor. Working scheme pendulum. First, go. Second, get ready. Gorolov pops the clutch. The engine howls, going to a limit-breaking 2,000 RPM. We fly out of the side passage, not nose first, as expected, but almost sideways. The tank goes into a deep, controlled skid. The left track is locked, the right one rotating madly, striking sparks from the cobblestones. The machine's hull is angled at 45 degrees to the vector of motion. For the German gunner of the lead tank, this is a shock. He sees a target that violates the laws of physics. His brain, trained for linear leading, glitches. He tries to catch us in the sight. He cranks the turret traverse handwheel. And here the rule I calculated last night comes into force. The angular velocity of our slide is higher than the rotation speed of the Panzer's turret electric motor. His barrel is late. He physically cannot catch up to us. The cross of his sight hangs in the void behind our stern.
Fire! Our shot sounds like the crack of a whip. We shoot on the move, at the moment of maximum slide. The shell goes almost point blank. Distance, 70 meters. The German tank shudders. The slug enters his side, right under the turret, shearing the turret ring. The ammunition explosion happens instantly. The turret, weighing several tons, is tossed into the air. It falls nearby, smoking like a cigarette butt. We don't stop. The gun recoil dampens the skid's inertia. Gorolov immediately shifts gears and throws the machine into a new turn, now to the right, getting away from the line of fire of the second German. At this moment, Sergeant Volkov's machine flies out of the neighboring alley. Exactly the same insane pirouette. Snow dust flies like a wall, blocking the enemy's view. Volkov rushes past the stunned adversary, spinning like a top. The Germans don't see a tank, but a blurred smear. They open disorderly fire. Shells crumble brick walls, ricochet off the pavement, go into the sky. Not a single hit on the hull. There is nothing to hit. The target doesn't stand still for a second. We created a carousel of death. 3 of our tanks rush around the square, crossing each other's trajectories, entering skids, turning on a dime. It is chaos, but controlled chaos. The German radio waves explode with panic. My radio operator intercepts fragments of phrases on the open frequency. "They are crazy! These aren't tanks, these are damn ghosts! Can't get a bead, target moving chaotically, Sector A, help! Where to shoot? They are everywhere!" They are used to fighting machines, but we are fighting with physics. Their vaunted Zeiss sights, magnificent optics, precise mechanics. All this becomes useless junk when the enemy refuses to play by the rules of ballistics. They are waiting for a stop. But there is no stop. There is only continuous movement, the screech of metal and the thunder of shots. A third German tank tries to back up, to get into cover, but the driver panics. He gives it too much gas, too sharply. The machine runs its rear onto a pile of broken brick and lifts its nose. A perfect target. The lower armor plate is exposed. I see it. Gorilov sees it. We don't need a command. We do a 180-degree spin. Monstrous G-force presses my insides into my spine. My vision goes dark. But hands do their job. Shot. The shell enters the bottom of the German machine, punching through the transmission and engine. The tank flares up like a torch. No one jumps out of the hatches. The battle lasts only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of squealing clutches and thundering cannons. In this time, the elite German platoon turned into a scrapyard graveyard. 4 burning skeletons, 2 overturned guns. Black, greasy smoke crawls along the street, mixing with the frosty fog.
We leave as suddenly as we appeared. We dive back into the labyrinth of ruins, leaving a burning intersection behind us. Motors roar, demanding cooling. Inside the turret, the stench of burnt gunpowder is so strong it stings the eyes. But we are breathing. We are alive. My hands are shaking not from fear, but from the adrenaline crash. I look at my guys. The loader sits on the floor, clutching an empty shell casing to his chest, laughing soundlessly. His face is black with soot. Only white teeth and the whites of his eyes are visible. It is the hysteria of a survivor. We broke their template. We destroyed not just 4 tanks. We destroyed their confidence that war is a predictable process. Today they learned that Russian Ivan is capable of making 28 tons of cast iron fly. But it's too early to relax. This was the vanguard. The main forces are still ahead, and now they will know we are here. They will stop charging headlong. They will bring up aviation or heavy-caliber artillery to level this square with the ground along with us. But for now we are the kings of this ice rink. Platoon, report status. I wheeze into the air. Second machine, nominal. Bent a fender, tore off a headlight. Ammo rack half empty. Third machine, nominal. Driver seems to have dislocated a shoulder, but holding the levers. Heading to base. I wipe sweat from my forehead. The glove leaves a dirty smear. We did it. Engineering calculation, multiplied by Russian madness, proved stronger than German order. But there is still a whole day ahead, and a night. And every new hour will require even more ingenuity from us, because the enemy learns fast. Too fast. The battle has lasted 20 minutes. For infantry, that's an instant. For a tanker in a closed hatch, it is a whole life, compressed into an endless cycle, loading, aiming, firing, jerking the lever. Inside the machine, the temperature has risen to 40 degrees, despite the frost outside. The engine, working at the limit, has heated the engine bulkhead white hot. The fan can't cope with removing gunpowder gases. We breathe a mixture of carbon monoxide and adrenaline. Driver Gorlov doesn't feel his hands anymore. I see his back. His tunic is soaked through, stuck to his shoulder blades. His shoulders jerk in time with the jerks of the machine. This is no longer conscious control. It is pure physiology, muscle memory. He yanks the steering clutch levers with effort enough to bend a crowbar and does it every 5 seconds. If he stops for even a moment, his muscles will cramp and we will become real estate. Chaos reigns on the square in front of the workshop. Snow has mixed with earth, soot, and oil, turning into black slush. Visibility, 0. We orient ourselves only by the flashes of gunshots. In the headphones, there is the crackle of static and cursing. "Third! Unshoed!" "Track knocked off!" The shout of the commander of machine number 3, Lieutenant Petrov, breaks through the roar. I turn the periscope. Petrov's tank stands by the boiler house wall. The left track has slid off the wheels like a snake and lies on the snow, its torn links shining. A shell severed the connecting pin. The machine is immobilized. Now it is just a steel pillbox, doomed to execution. 2 German Panzer IV tanks have already noticed the victim. They slowly turn their turrets. They aren't hurrying. They know the Russian isn't going anywhere. They just need to aim and plant a slug in the stationary side. "Gorilov, do you see Petrov?" I shout. "I see him. He's done, Comrade Lieutenant." "No! Maneuver compass! Around him! Fast!" This is improvisation. This wasn't in the training. But the principle is the same. Physics and inertia. Gorilov understands me instantly. He points our T-34s straight at our hit comrade. We accelerate. The Germans see us but don't shoot. We are moving too fast and at a sharp angle. We slip between Petrov and the Germans. "Right clutch back! Gun it!" Gorlov locks the right track. The tank begins to rotate around Petrov, describing a tight circle with a radius of 10 meters. We become a living shield, a rotating shield. Centrifugal force presses me into the turret wall so hard it takes my breath away. The loader falls onto the ammo rack. The shell slips from his hands, but he immediately grabs it again. The world in the periscope turns into a smeared strip. Ruins, fire, German tank, wall, ruins again. The German gunner is going crazy. He sees a target before him that is rushing in a circle with an angular velocity inaccessible to his mechanisms. He tries to shoot at us, but at the moment he pulls the trigger, we have already shifted 3 hull lengths. The shell hits the cobblestones where we were a second ago. Shrapnel clicks against our armor like hail. "Fire at the drive sprocket," I command, when the German side flashes in the sight for a split second. A shot from rotation is a lottery, but this time we win. The shell hits the German in the running gear. The drive sprocket shatters into pieces. The German tank jerks and turns, exposing its stern to Volkov's machine, which flies out of the smoke from the other side. Volkov doesn't miss. A shot to the engine compartment puts a period at the end of the sentence. We continue to circle. Gorilov holds the compass without lowering RPMs. The engine howls on a note close to breaking metal. The transmission oil is boiling, but we cover Petrov while his crew fires from a stationary position. The second German tank tries to flank us, but falls under crossfire. We have clamped them in pincers of chaos. They don't understand where the front is and where the rear is. For them, death comes from all sides simultaneously. Russian tanks don't stand in a line. They are everywhere. The roar of battle dies down suddenly, as if someone flipped a switch. Only the crackle of burning metal and the whine of our fan remain. Gorlov releases the levers. The machine jerks and freezes. Silence presses on the ears like heavy cotton. I open the hatch. Cold air bursts into the turret, burning the lungs. I survey the battlefield. 8 black bonfires. 8 Wehrmacht machines turned into scrap metal. Their turrets are torn off, barrels buried in the ground, thick, oily smoke billowing from the hatches. This is the work of 3 crews in 20 minutes. "Third, how are you?" I ask into the throat mic. "Alive," Petrov's voice trembles. "Driver has a concussion, radio operator wounded by armor spall. But alive. Thank you, Commander. If not for your carousel." "Can you fix it?" "We have tracks. We'll pull it back on. Need about 40 minutes. "You have 10. The Germans aren't idiots. They'll blanket this square with mortars." I slide down the armor. My legs buckle. I walk up to Gorlov. He is sitting on the edge of the hatch, arms dangling. His hands are shaking so much he can't get a cigarette out of the pack. I take out mine, light it, and put it between his teeth. He inhales deeply, greedily, until he coughs. "Was it scary, Sergeant Major?" I ask. "No, Comrade Lieutenant. There was no time to be afraid. The hands were afraid, but the head was calculating." I look at our machine. The sides are pitted with shrapnel. The paint is burnt. The left fender is torn off with the meat. But the armor is intact. Not a single penetrating hole. Ricochets left deep furrows, but didn't kill us. The angle of the shell meeting the armor during the slide was always too acute. Physics saved us where the thickness of steel was powerless. The platoon's losses, only iron. Broken optics, torn tracks, bent wheels. The people are whole. This is the main statistic of war. The factory will make new iron. You can't make people. "Collect trophies," I command, though I have no strength even to raise my arm. "Documents, maps, everything that survived in the German machines. And let's go. The show is over." The snow continues to fall, slowly covering the black spots of soot. The Stalingrad ice under our tracks has become even more slippery from spilled oil and antifreeze. But now we know. Ice is not a death sentence. It is a habitat. And we have learned to breathe in it. The silence after the battle deafens more than an artillery barrage. Ears, accustomed to the roar of 1,000 horsepower and the thunder of 76mm guns, refuse to perceive the absence of sound. There is a thin, high ringing in my head. Capillaries in my eardrums burst from the pressure change. The engines are killed. Now only the cooling metal can be heard. Clicks, crackles, dull thuds inside the engine compartments. 28 tons of steel contract in 20 degrees of frost, giving up the heat accumulated in battle. Hot air trembles above the transmission louvers, distorting the perspective of the ruins. We stand by our machines. Legs are like cotton. They won't hold. The crews have slid onto the snow. Someone is sitting right on a track. Someone leans against the armor, trying to calm the trembling in their hands. This isn't fear. It's the come-down. The organism's biochemistry burned all resources, and now the body demands payment for those 20 minutes of superhuman strain. I force myself to stand up. I need to inspect the machine. It's an engineer's reflex. First thing, assess the damage, check the assemblies, understand what price the mechanism paid for the crew's survival. I run a gloved hand along the left side. The armor is warm. There isn't an untouched spot on it, solid scars. The paint has burned and blistered, but these are surface wounds. Here is a deep furrow 1/2 meter long, a trace from a German slug. It entered at a tangent, stripped the top layer of cemented steel, and ricocheted away. I stop and look at this trace. If we had been standing still, this shell would have stitched right through us, turning the crew into ground meat. But we were sliding. The angle of the shell meeting the armor changed. Instead of 90 degrees, the German got 30. Kinetic energy didn't pierce the metal, but slid off it like a drop of water off oil. Physics worked. The calculation proved correct. The running gear suffered more. The rubber tires on the road wheels are torn to shreds. From the friction of side impacts, the rubber overheated and in places melted, dripping down the discs in black, frozen snot. The track guide horns are polished to a mirror shine. Micro cracks are visible on some links. Metal fatigue from extreme loads on the tear. But the pins held. The track remained whole. Soviet Gadfield steel turned out to be tougher than German punctuality. A Willys drives up to us from the direction of headquarters. The car jumps over bumps, splashing mud. Major Belyaev climbs out. He doesn't run. He walks slowly, stepping heavily on the broken brick. His face is impenetrable. He stops 10 paces from my machine. He looks at the burning German tanks. 8 pillars of black smoke prop up the gray sky. This is the graveyard of the Panzerwaffe elite. Then he shifts his gaze to us, to 3 dirty, soot-covered, but living T-34s. He expected to see a mass grave. He probably already prepared a funeral speech and a list of death notices. But he sees victors. This breaks his worldview. Belyaev approaches my tank. He takes off his glove and touches that very ricochet trace on the side with a bare palm. He understands ballistics. He sees that this isn't a miracle. It is geometry. Then he lowers his gaze to the ice.
The entire square in front of the workshop is painted with the tracks of our treads. These aren't straight lines of tactical maneuvers. This is a mad script. Arcs, spirals, loops, intersecting circles. It looks like the tracks of speed skaters on a rink, only instead of blades, 500-kilogram tracks worked here. The tracks tell the story of the battle better than any report. Here, a sharp entry into a turn, deep scratches on the concrete from the skid. Here, a compass, a perfectly even circle around a downed comrade. Here, a figure 8 with which we confused the German gunners. Belyaev looks at these patterns for a long time. Then he raises his head and looks me in the eyes. There is no regulatory strictness in his gaze. There is something else in it. Respect mixed with bewilderment. "Report, Lieutenant," he says quietly. "Mission accomplished, Comrade Major. Grid square 1240 cleared. Enemy lost 8 units of armor. Personnel losses, 0. Material losses require replacement of road wheel tires and current repair of transmission." Belyaev grunts. He takes out a cigarette case, offers me a cigarette. My hands are covered in oil and soot. I take it carefully so as not to stain his tunic. He gives me a light. "I watched the battle through binoculars from the observation post," he says, blowing out smoke. "At first I decided your steering failed, that you lost control of the machines. And then I saw the Germans burning." He pauses, watching as the mechanics begin to fuss around the wheels, chipping off frozen ice with crowbars. "You violated 13 points of the combat manual and 5 paragraphs of the operating instructions, Kovalev. For that, I should court-martial you. You turned combat equipment into circus props." I am silent. I know he is right. By the letter of the law, I am a criminal. I risked state property. "But winners aren't judged," Belyaev continues, "especially living winners." He looks again at the scarred ice, at the curved lines that saved our lives. A strange, sparing smile appears on his weathered, hard face. The smile of a man who saw the impossible become fact. "You're not a tanker, Kovalev," he says, shaking his head. "You're a figure skater." It doesn't sound like an insult. From his lips, it is the highest praise, recognition of professionalism of a different order. "Permission to continue repairs, Comrade Major?" I ask. "Repair. You'll get parts out of turn. And..." He falls silent for a second, looking me straight in the eye. "Write the manual." "What manual?" "The one you just fought by. How to rip clutches and stay alive. How to slide on 28 tons. Diagrams, calculations, angles, everything you have in that notebook. I want it on my desk by morning. If this circus works, it means we're opening a tour along the entire front." He turns and walks to the car. His back is straight, but his gait has become lighter. He carries away not death notices, but a victory and hope. I remain by the tank, smoking, looking at the smoking skeletons of enemies.
Figure skater. So be it. If figure skating on ice watered with blood helps save the lives of my guys, I will dance. Did you hear, guys? Gorelov's voice comes from the driver's hatch. He is fussing down below, checking the linkages. The battalion commander gave the go-ahead. That means we'll live a bit longer, Volkov responds from the neighboring machine. We didn't receive medals. We weren't promised ranks. We were given something more valuable. We were given the right to fight not by the template. We were allowed to think. Allowed to use physics as a weapon. I smoke down to the filter, throw the butt into the snow. It hisses and goes out. The cold begins to creep under the sweaty tunic. End brake, I command. Wrenches in hand. We have work until morning.
The wheels won't change themselves. We become mechanics again. The romance of battle is gone. Heavy, dirty work with iron remains. But now we look at this iron differently. We know what it can do. And it knows that we trust it. The connection between man and machine has become absolute, stronger than any weld. A dugout with 3 layers of logs. Depth 2 meters below the level of frozen ground. On top, a layer of logs, earth, and snow that muffles the sounds of war to a state of distant, unreal rumble. It smells of damp clay, cheap tobacco, and kerosene here. I was recalled from the front line for a week. It is a strange kind of leave. Instead of rest, a table made of shell crates, a stack of clean paper, and an indelible pencil. Battalion Commander Belayev's order was brief. Put it on paper, so that any sergeant from training understands how not to burn in the very first battle. I sit and look at the blank sheet. Writing is harder than fighting. In battle, you work on reflexes. There is no time for doubt there. Here, in the silence, every word weighs more than an armor-piercing shell. Because a mistake in this text will cost the life not of me, but of the thousands who will come to replace us. I write out the title. Conducting Maneuver Combat in Conditions of Urban Buildup and Ice. Sounds dry, bureaucratic, but behind every letter here stands a specific episode paid for with fear and risk. Point 1. Features of track grip on ice cover. I draw a diagram. T-34 tank in top projection. Velocity vector. Inertia vector. Point of force application when locking the track. I must explain the inexplicable. Why the machine doesn't tip over. I write out the overturning moment formula. Our center of gravity is low. The track width allows withstanding lateral g-forces up to 2 units. If the mechanic holds the gas, centrifugal force presses the outer side to the ground, compensating for the tilt. This is physics. It is impartial. I recall Gorlov's face, his raw hands. In the manual I write, effort on levers during emergency maneuvering increases threefold. Operation with both hands when locking the side is recommended. This isn't advice. It is a physiological requirement. One hand can't hold the lever when 28 tons of inertia try to rip it back. Point 2. Firing in an uncontrolled slide. The most difficult section. The manual forbids this categorically. I write, in exceptional cases, when stopping is impossible, I describe the method of leading. If the tank rotates left, the gunner must rotate the turret right with a lead. It is an equation of relative velocities. I draw sectors of fire. The blind zone disappears during a skid. The tank becomes a ball studded with needles. It can sting in any direction. The silence of the dugout presses. I think I hear the clatter of breeches and the hiss of the radio, but these are just phantoms of memory. It is quiet here. Only the scratching of the pencil and the crackle of the wick in the lamp. I described the compass maneuver. The very one that saved Petrov. Drawing the diagram. Disabled tank in the center, active tank in orbit. Radius, 10 meters. Speed, 25 kilometers per hour. Gear, second or third, depending on the ground. Important note: do not drop RPMs. Loss of traction will lead to a stop and inevitable defeat. This isn't just tactics. It is a philosophy of survival. We are used to thinking that armor is the thickness of metal. I prove that armor is speed and vector of motion. A moving target is harder to hit than a static pillbox, even if that pillbox has 100 millimeters of front armor. I have already written 10 pages. My hand is more tired than from the levers. I understand that I am creating a document that will go to Army HQ, then to Front HQ. Rear generals will read it. They will frown, seeing violations of instructions, but they will approve it because statistics are stubborn. 3 tanks survived, where a battalion should have perished. This manual is written in blood, not mine, but of those who burned before us. Sokolov and hundreds of other lieutenants who honestly followed the manual and died at intersections. We found a loophole in the laws of war, and now I must widen this loophole to the size of gates through which the entire tank army will pass. 15 lives, 3 crews of 5 men. We survived today thanks to these formulas. If this brochure is printed, if it is hammered into the heads of cadets in schools, thousands will survive tomorrow. 15 will turn into 15,000. This efficiency coefficient is higher than that of any engine. I put down the pencil. I look at the stack of written sheets. On them are blueprints of death turned into a controlled process. In the corner of the page, an oil stain. I didn't notice putting it there with a dirty sleeve. Let it be. It is a seal of authenticity.
A messenger comes down into the dugout. He brings a mess kit with porridge. He smells of frost and smoke. "Comrade Lieutenant," the major asks, "is it soon?" "Ready," I answer. "Take it, pass it on, have them retype it in 3 copies. 1 to HQ, 1 to the school, 1 to me." The messenger takes the papers. He doesn't know what he is holding. For him, it is just a report. For me, it is a testament to those who will come after us. I remain alone. I finish the cold tea. Tomorrow I will return to the line. Cold again, thunder again, smell of burning again. But now I have a sense of fulfilled duty of a different kind. I didn't just destroy the enemy. I passed on experience. War is won not only by heroism. Heroism is often the consequence of someone's mistake. War is won by technology. And if our technology is madness put on tracks, then we will make this madness the standard. I lie down on the planks, cover myself with a greatcoat. Before my eyes, force vectors still stand.
F equals m times a. Newton's law. The only law that cannot be repealed by an order of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. But it can be used, and we learned to do it. Tomorrow these sheets will become a guidebook. The text will be typed, duplicated on a mimeograph. The pictures will be redrawn in ink, and somewhere near Kursk or Berlin, a young lieutenant, having read these lines, won't hit the brake before a shot. He will hit the gas, and he will return home alive. This is my main victory. Not the burned panzers, but those who won't burn in our T-34s. I close my eyes. The silence of the dugout finally becomes peaceful. The manual of blood is finished. I can sleep. Year 1975. Training hangar of the Higher Tank Command School. Echoes walk under the corrugated aluminum vaults. The smell here is different. In 43, it smelled of burning, blood, and unrefined oil.
Here it smells of fresh paint, synthetic oil, and ozone from working electrical appliances. I walk along the formation. I am Major General Kovalev. My cane taps on the concrete floor, beating out the rhythm of time. To my left, cadets are frozen. New uniforms, perfect bearing, in their eyes, confidence bordering on arrogance. To the right, new machines. T-72 Ural tanks. These are masterpieces of engineering thought. 125 millimeters of smooth-bore fury. An autoloader that threw the fourth crew member out of the turret, replacing human hands with flawless hydraulics and electromechanics. Laser rangefinders, ballistic computers, gun stabilizers in 2 planes. I stop by the lead machine. I put my hand on the cold armor covered by rubber fabric screens. This machine is smart. It knows how to calculate corrections for wind, for charge temperature, for barrel wear itself. It forgives mistakes. If the driver jerks the lever, the stabilizer holds the mark on the target. If the gunner flinches, electronics smooth out the jerk. The cadets look at me. For them, I am a fossil, a man from an era when sights were optical and the transmission was shifted with a blow of a sledgehammer. They respect my shoulder straps, but they believe in their instruments. At ease. My voice sounds hollow in the huge room. Cadet Ivanov, front and center. A young guy takes a step forward, face open, intelligent, an A student in combat and political training. Tell me, Ivanov, what is the main thing in a modern tank? I ask. Fire control system, Comrade Major General. The possibility of hitting a target with the first shot at a distance of up to 2,000 meters at any time of day. He answers by the textbook, clearly, correctly. Sit down, Ivanov. A+, I chuckle. And now listen to me. I turn to the formation. 300 pairs of eyes. 300 future officers who tomorrow will be entrusted with complex equipment worth millions of rubles. Your tank is a computer on tracks. It sees in the dark. It shoots more accurately than a sniper. It is faster than we could dream. But this machine has one flaw. It is predictable. I start walking in front of the formation. The cane clicks on the concrete. All these stabilizers and computers are created to drive war into the framework of instructions, to eliminate chance, to make combat a mathematically verified process. You press a button, the laser measures the range. You align the mark, the cannon aims. This is wonderful, as long as the enemy plays by the same rules. I stop opposite Ivanov. But the enemy reads your manuals too. He knows the cycle time of your autoloader. He knows the blind spots of your observation devices. He knows that your electronics won't let you shoot if the sensors decide the tilt is excessive, and he will wait for exactly that moment. I recall Stalingrad, January 43. Ice that was slippery as glass. In 43, we didn't have lasers, I continue. We didn't have stabilizers. Our cannon looked where the hull looked if we braked. According to the manual, we were corpses. German Zeiss sights were better than ours. Their guns were more accurate. By all calculations, we should have burned in the first minute of battle. Silence stands in the hangar. Even the hum of fluorescent lamps seems deafening. But we survived. And we won. Do you know why? Because we turned a disadvantage into a weapon. We forced physics to work against the manual. I see the expression on their faces change. Skepticism is replaced by interest. The T-72 tank won't let you go into a controlled skid. Its tracks with rubber metallic hinges hold the road deathly tight. Its transmission with hydraulic servo drive won't let you lock a side with a punch.
The machine protects you from an accident. But sometimes, to survive in battle, you need to create an accident. a controlled catastrophe. I walk to the board with tactical diagrams, pick up a piece of chalk, draw a vector. The very one from 43. The winner isn't the one with thicker armor or a smarter sight. The winner is the one who thinks faster than a microchip, who is ready to violate a prohibition to gain a half-second advantage. Your ballistic computer calculates the shell's trajectory, and you must calculate the trajectory of the enemy's thought. I toss the chalk into the tray. A cloud of white dust settles on my tunic. Engineering calculation is not just knowing how a mechanism works. It is knowing where its breaking point lies, and the readiness to step over that limit. In Stalingrad, we fought in machines that by modern standards were tractors with cannons. But we forced those tractors to dance on ice.
We called it drift. The Germans called it madness, and history called it tactics.
I look at Ivanov again. Don't pray to electronics, son. One day the laser will burn out, the stabilizer will jam, the optics will shatter. And then only you and 40 tons of iron will remain. And if you wait for a hint from a light on the panel, you will burn. You must feel the machine with your spinal cord. You must be ready to do what isn't in the manual. I wave my hand, dismissing the formation. Dismissed. To the machines. Study the material. And remember, the manual is the baseline. Victory is the superstructure you build yourselves, with your risk and your calculation. Cadets run to the hatches. Clanking begins, the hum of drives, commands. Life goes on. A new generation masters new levers. I walk out of the hangar onto the street. The autumn sun shines brightly, but doesn't warm. An alley leads to the main entrance. There, on a granite pedestal, stands it.
The T-34 tank, Model 42. It is freshly painted in parade green. The wheels are outlined with a white rim. The barrel is raised to the sky, as if in an eternal salute. It looks like a toy compared to those monsters standing in the hangar. Small, angular, cramped. I walk up to the pedestal, lean on the cane. For everyone passing by, this is a monument, a symbol, a piece of history. For me, it is a living being that froze only for a second. I look at the tracks, steel links covered in black varnish. They look static, grown into the concrete. But I remember how they slid. I remember that sound, the screech of metal on ice that made blood run cold. In my memory, a picture floats up. A gray intersection, smoke, and us, flying sideways in a cloud of snow dust. It wasn't a miracle. Miracles don't happen in war. There is a precisely solved equation where the variables were speed, mass, and friction force. We didn't win because we are Russians and nothing scares us. We won because we were engineers of our own fate.
We took a wretched reality, ice, frost, a weak engine, and recalculated it in our favor. I stroke the cold metal of the track. "Hello there, ballerina," I whisper with just my lips. It seems the tank shudders slightly, maybe from a truck driving by, or maybe it remembers too. In this world where lasers, radars, and satellites now rule, one thing remains unchanged. Man. A man backed into a corner, a man forbidden to survive by circumstances, and who, in spite of everything, finds a solution. Non-standard, risky, the only correct one. This is our perpetual motion machine. Not the V2 diesel, not the gas turbine, but the ability of a Russian soldier to turn a hopeless situation into an engineering problem and solve it. I adjust my cap. Major General Kovalev, veteran of tank troops, author of the methodological manual Fundamentals of Non-Standard Maneuvering, is going home. I have a lecture tomorrow. I need to tell these boys about impulse, and that inertia isn't just a physical concept. It is something that must be overcome. In the machine, in battle, and in one's own head. The sun sets behind the school buildings, flooding the armor of the T-34 with red light. The tank on the pedestal seems to be burning again, but not with the fire of defeat, but the fire of glory. It stands firm. It isn't sliding anymore. It has arrived.